Hello, everybody. Welcome to my very first episode of Tea with Tui. I am so excited that you have joined us on this journey. And I have to warn you, it is going to be quite a journey. For those who don't know who I am, my name is Tui Tikiti. For the past decade, over a decade, I have been a psychic medium, spiritual healer. Of course, in that time, my career has evolved and I'm going to bring you along the journey because it's been a wild one. It's been a wild one. I am joined in this episode by my beautiful friend, Amanda Gatfield. I cannot wait to introduce you. And before I do that, I have a few trigger warnings to kick us off. I have been known to use a few colorful language, a few colorful words here and there. So if that is not your thing, this might not be the podcast for you. I also have a warning that, my life as a psychic medium growing up, seeing the other side was not light and fluffy. So I'm going to warn you that this first season, as I introduce myself, we are going to go through a deep dive and getting to know a little bit about my story, a little bit about what I have been through, how I became a psychic medium, how the whole journey manifested. And I need to warn you that there are going to be episodes where we're going to have to put on our headphones and make sure that kids are out of the room. In this episode, we will be talking about violence. So I just want to warn you guys, I think that's everything on my trigger list. Let's dive straight into it. I promise this is not going to bore you. Hello, lovely. Welcome to Tea with Tui, the podcast where I spill the tea on all things mystical and spiritual. Whether you are a ghost story enthusiast looking for a good vibe or simply curious about your spiritual journey, this is the podcast for you. My name is Tui Tikiti. I am your host and guide, and we, my love, are going on a wild adventure together. Get ready because I feel like this next episode is going to be a good one. So strap in for a wild journey, my loves. This is going to be one hell of an adventure. Welcome, Amanda, my love. Thank you so much for joining me here today. It is such an honor to have you here as my very first guest, but also on the very first episode. Thank you.
I feel so privileged to be part of your podcast, Tui, and to be on the first episode. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, thanks so much for being here. I know that there's going to be plenty more. So Amanda's going to be a bit of a household name this season. We're going to go on an adventure together. Just for those who maybe don't know the history of Tea with Tui, I actually started this little segment on Instagram in 2019 where I would every Friday afternoon share a ghost story, whether it from my past childhood, my past experience that week, whatever just came up that felt the need to share an interesting story. That's kind of how Tea with Tui started. And I've always had the intention of making it a podcast, but been very busy. And now 2024, we're making it a priority. So thank you for being here. I feel like we should start off with letting people know how you and I met, Amanda, and why, I asked you to be here.
Yes,
Um,
I
yeah,
agree. Otherwise, it's weird. So,
it's not
yeah.
weird.
So you and I, actually, we haven't been friends for very long. We met around 4 months ago. You were co-facilitating a retreat that I attended as a participant, and we had a very late night, 1 a.m. conversation on a couch, like two besties with a cup of tea talking ghosts. And I have always been so interested in anything to do with spiritual and woo-woo and all the things. And here I was with this magnificent woman in front of me who had the most fabulous stories, and I just could not pick my jaw up off the floor. And I remember you were like, is this how normal people think? When I just kept asking you so many questions. And it kind of led to us saying, like, this would make a hilarious conversation that someone else, I'm sure, would love to listen to. And hence the podcast was born. So
Love
that
it.
is essentially the basis of our friendship. And now we're just like two besties who are here on a virtual couch, ready to talk about all things woo woo on this first season of your podcast.
Yes, and thank you so much for joining me. Honestly, yeah, where to start? I
Well,
wanted Amanda to come on here because I've been so long in this journey that honestly, that was the number one question I would ask myself. Where do I even start? What do people even want to know? I've been in the thick of the forest for so long doing my thing that what I perceive as normal is vastly different to how others walk through life, which is where where that question really came from. Was it really dawned on me that people don't know this stuff. And I I'm really excited to share my version of what's kind of
mm.
manifested in life and what it's been like to grow up with spirit, because I really don't know any different.
Well, I'd love to. Why don't we revisit the conversation that you and I had on the couch then? Because as someone who is quote unquote normal, I found this conversation so fascinating. So tell us, why don't we go back to that conversation? I was asking you about your earliest memories and first experiences with spirit, and what was that like for you?
Yes. So there's two stories that come up to mind that I think are going to be really interesting. Uh The first one, which is probably one of my earliest memories that I have, it's hard because I feel like both memories kind of go hand in hand. They might have been about 2 years apart. So going back so far, the timeline kind of blurs. But one of the first ones that I actually experienced was um, this is maybe where I should warn people who have experienced violence. This one might not be the story for you, but it's just what happened to my life. So, when I was really little, maybe about 5 years old, I remember going to sleep. I shared a room at the time with my little sister. And as I was sleeping, it was very random how this all started. I remember one night waking up and in a panic because I couldn't breathe. It was as if I literally forgot how to breathe. And I think what's interesting is that when I think about this story, I can really hear this sense of, am I dumb in the back of my mind? Why can I not breathe? Why can't I remember to breathe? I literally couldn't remember to breathe out of my nose, in my mouth, nothing. I just had like this mental blank. And I don't know what happened, but I know that as I was becoming aware that I literally could die, I remember thinking, if I don't breathe, I'm not going to be here anymore. The panic starts to set in. And as the panic sets in, I can see the shadow looming over my head. Um, and being super freaked out. And literally, the only other memory that I have is that I snap out of it and I wake up the next morning. And I think that is so bizarre. I consciously remember kind of thinking, what's wrong with me? Like, who forgets how to breathe? But I remember waking up that morning like, big breaths in the mouth, big breaths through the nose, big breaths. The following night, I never really thought of any, like, I brushed it off, I guess, and never really thought too much about it. Went back to sleep. And this happened consecutively, like nights in a row, where the following night, I remember going to sleep, and this time the same thing happens, except when I open up my eyes, I can see a man over me with his hands wrapped around my neck. This time I'm not seeing a shadow. I can see a Caucasian male. I can see that he's got scruffy hair. I feel like he had a hat, but you know when people have got hat hair and then it's all scruffy? He felt um he felt like rage was like oozing out of him. And I just remember feeling a memory in my body that he's found me, and the feeling that I got was he's either here for vengeance or he's here to off me. As that was happening, I remember very clearly what might have been only a few seconds. For me as a child, I remember it so vividly that it feels like time kind of warped and things went really slow for a while. I actually remember the indents of what I would call acne in his face. I remember him being really dirty, like dirt on his skin. I remember the black clothes that he wore. And I will never forget the pure anger and rage that he looked at me. That's what I know that I remember, is that it's like my eyes started to go black and then I was out. I have a feeling that I might have passed out. I'm not sure. I can't really remember how we got out of that. Um, I just remember being like absolutely petrified in the morning and knowing, actively knowing that that one wasn't a dream. The first one, I thought, it's just nothing. The second time it happened, I really knew like this isn't a dream. And
Mm.
I knew something was wrong, and I really wish that I could tell you guys that I ran to my parents and I told them. I actually grew up in a really strict household, and I didn't feel safe to go wake up my parents in the middle of the night without being yelled at. So in the morning, I remember just shutting my mouth and not talking about it and almost ignoring it, I guess
Mm.
is the
And
right.
how does a 5-year-old even articulate what that experience was, first of all,
Yeah,
and decipher, was that a bad dream, a nightmare, or did that really happen?
yeah.
So, wow, okay. And
Yeah.
then what happened next?
So I I have to share this. Like, adult eyes looking back, I know that it was a ghost. Back then, I had no idea what it was.
Mm.
I didn't suspect that it was a spirit. I didn't suspect that it was a ghost, but I knew that this man was not physically in my room. I could physically see him. He was not holographic. He was not see-through. I could physically see him like I'm seeing you on the screen right now.
Mhm, mhm.
Um, but I, at that stage, didn't even have the words to put into place what it was that I was going through, really,
Mm,
not just
mm.
seeing what I was experiencing. So the third night that this happened, I remember going to bed petrified, like really scared to go to bed. Strangely enough, I don't know why I still didn't tell my parents that I was too scared to go to bed. Adult eyes looking in, I know child eyes seeing this experience. Um, I just remember that I was probably, I remember feeling like I'd probably just get in trouble and just be told to go to bed.
Yeah.
That third night, even now I can feel it in my body. My heart is racing. I want to cry. I remember being so scared to go to bed that night that I tried really hard to stay awake. I think I'm going to get emotional. I'm going to try to get rid of that energy because we don't need that here. Um, I tried really hard to go to sleep that night, but I can remember even in my body right now feeling panic and adult eyes looking in, I know that I was in fight or flight. Child eyes witnessing what was happening and going through this experience completely different. All I know was that anytime that my eyes would close and that I would try to anytime that I could register that I was falling asleep, I'd almost like panic, wake up, and I would do that several times during the night. And my how the room was situated, my sister was to my right in her single bed. I'm on mine. And at the end of my bed, there is the entrance to our room. So at that time, the door was open. I
Mhm.
remember like freaking out, getting started, looking to the door and seeing the shadow. As I see this shadow, I know that it's starting to walk towards me. As it starts to walking towards me, it's as if this man is, I don't know, appearing out of thin air. It's like he's kind of more details are stepping forward with each and every step that he takes towards me because I know what's going on. I instantly go into panic. I wish that I could tell you that I got up and I started to scream. I didn't. I was completely petrified. I remember just being not being able to move my body. And in my head, I didn't know any grandparents at that stage. All of my grandparents were in spirit. I never met any of them. I was never told to call any of them in, which is, if you're listening and this ever happens to you, what you should be doing. But all I knew was about God. Oh, that's all I knew. We went to a private school, and I knew about God. So I just remember in my head thinking, I need help, I need help, I need help, I need help. And then in my mind thinking, somebody help me. I need help now, 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 now. And as I'm saying that, this man's walking towards me, getting closer. And I say it as if it's in slow motion. And at the time, it was in slow motion. I think that's just the adrenaline. However, it probably took all of 5 seconds.
Mm.
At the time where I'm saying, help me, help me, help me, what I can see is that as I lift my head to look back at the door, out of nowhere, this kind of blue light. I don't know how else to describe it other than this blue ball of light kind of, I don't know, scoots into the doorway. It like washes into the doorway, stops there. I'm still repeating at this stage, help me, help me, help me. Out of nowhere, the man is he's made his way towards me. His hands are starting to wrap around my neck. Out of nowhere, the blue light just shoots through the room. I don't feel this sense of peace and calm. It was more pure shock. I remember my heart almost skipping a beat as I'm saying this. And I don't know how to explain it. It was almost like this man was kind of ripped out of the room and taken out of the window. And I I never experienced another thing like that while I was little. Again, that was probably one of my earliest memories that I have with spirit. The other one's a little bit more nicer, but that one, yeah, that was kind of my introduction to the spirit world was
Wow.
violence.
Wow. And your sister was asleep the whole time? You never told her about it?
No, no, like, no, which I know feels weird. Like, even for now, I'm
Yeah.
like, why wouldn't I say?
Yeah. Like I can understand not telling your parents if you were a bit scared of them,
Yeah.
but surely you'd tell your sister.
No, my family, I very much was the black sheep of the family. I grew up with three sisters. I'm sorry, I was one of three sisters in the house. I actually have a huge family. I'm one of eight siblings. However, these three are with my mum. So I'm the middle child.
Mm,
Elder child and the youngest child, they were really close. And I was kind of the outskirts.
right.
I was the one that was left out, which is great because it means that I'm now super independent. But at
Mm,
that stage, no, like my sister and I, we could not be more polar opposite.
right.
She is
Okay.
the yin to my yang. And growing up, because mom always says, because we were close in age, where, I think like 12 or 13 months or 11 months, I don't know what it is, but we're really close in age. And mom always said she shouldn't have had children so close because we never got along, ever. She was the last
Interesting.
person that I would told any of this to.
Yeah, okay, interesting.
Yeah.
So when did you figure out what the blue light was?
Adult. A lot of the stuff that I figured out was later in life. And the only reason I remember that is because somebody else asked me about what my earliest memories were. And it really had to stretch my mind. And when I really looked back, because I didn't see a person, I can't tell you that it was an angel. But what I can say is that in my time and my experience with spirit, I do believe that it was Archangel Michael.
Mm,
Um, he has been one of my guides in the back, and very, like, if it wasn't for him, there's no way that I would be reading people now. There's just no way. He's been one of my main spirit guides on this journey, and I really believe that that was almost one of our first interactions, but that was definitely the first interaction that he had to intervene in our story. Um, yeah, I didn't meet Archangel Michael until formally meet him, I guess, until I was in my 20s. But I
Interesting.
think that's going to be another conversation for another episode because that one's quite interesting as well. And then the other memory that I have is this one really shifted, it kind of shaped my life. I didn't know then that I was speaking to angels, but I think because I went to a Catholic school, when I saw the wings, I just never really, it was almost like no really big emphasis was made on that.
Okay.
Yeah, so I used to have periodically the same angel come and in the middle of the night, don't know why they all are around nighttime, but what I do know is that spirit will typically talk to us at nighttime because it's when our mind is less chatty, it's less distracted.
Right.
Um, Always the theme with mine is that as a child, it was nighttime. This angel, they would never wake me up, but I would be woken up by what they were saying. He would basically come into my room, appear out of thin air. He didn't walk through a door. I just always remember him being there, appearing out of thin air. And he had this huge scroll that he would read to me every single night, periodically for quite a long time. After that, it started being like a week, once every 2 weeks, once a month, to the point where I knew this in my body, in my mind, in my soul. This angel would say to me that I've come to earth for a really big mission. And for me to pursue that mission, there were a lot of things that I needed to achieve before the age of 21. And he would read these things off this scroll. It was a lot of what I can remember was that I would be experiencing things so that I could have a level of understanding of people. Adult eyes looking back, I know that it was so that I could understand what people were going through as they were going through in their journey. I never knew why.
Mm.
As a child, I didn't know that this is why I had to do these things. I was just told that they would happen. So this list was long. It wasn't like a quick list. It was something that was going to take me 21 years to complete. On that list, I really want to say like it was all light and love, but it truly wasn't. I really believe that they were preparing me for how tumultuous my life was going to be.
Yeah.
Um, Part of the things that's on that list that I feel like I have to talk about is as he would read this list, I know that when he got towards the end of that reading, I would I would have to become very aware in what he was saying. Although as a child, I did not understand, I couldn't compute the words that he was saying.
Hmm.
Here are some of the things that, just to get straight to the point before I get distracted, because I'm also seeing that um, he wasn't the only angel. There were other angels that were in the room, but he was just the one reading the scroll. So he would say to me that along my journey, I would meet a girl. It would be important for me to understand the mind of a criminal, the mind of people who, experienced and created drugs. Um, Along that list, this was always the last one. And he would always hold my hand, look me in the eyes, and say this. He would tell me that I would be graped before I was 21. He did not use the word grape, he used the real word. But at that age, at this stage, I'm 5 or 6, like I'm really young. I don't know what that word even means.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
no understanding. I never felt any fear about anything that he was saying. I never saw violence when they were showing me things. I just knew that there would be lots of things that I need to experience. Some of them were joy, some of them were lovely relationships, but for the most part, it was really understanding all the varieties of life. And, I really wish that I could tell you that I was really close to my parents and I told them everything and I told them things. I just didn't have that relationship growing
Mhm.
up in my household. Like I didn't. My parents were very busy working. Um, Yeah, I just didn't. Now look, I feel like I really was raised under a rock. My family also didn't really do a lot informing us about the real world. And, kudos to them. It probably wasn't really something that they were told either. It's just something that happens as you grow up. We live in such a different world now, to what it was when I was growing up, especially with the internet. Like there is just so much information out there right now that everybody knows how to Google or jump on a social platform and learn about a new subject. That wasn't the case for me. So, um, yeah, I remember that, there would be times in my life that I would do something and I could hear them saying in the background, "Oh, yeah, she's ticked off this off her list. She's done this off her list." And
Wow.
I would even like, especially around high school, I would get lots of reminders as the time was coming towards my 21st. There was a lot that I had not achieved. And it felt like for me, by the time that I started going into teens, right up until I was 21, honestly, I'd already achieved my list by the age of 19, 20. But it was like an intense, I really want to say it was an intense decade where there
Yeah.
was just one thing after another, and every single thing that this angel said came true. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. I have this real blessing, and some would call it a curse, that I have a very clear knowing of what I'm here to do on earth. I have a very clear knowing of the path that I'm meant to take, the steps I'm meant to follow. And I wish that I could tell you that it's every single detail is planned out. It's not really like that. There is flexibility and flow for me to have my free will. Some things like relationships, I really want to say that it's fun dating as a psychic medium, but it's not. Spirit several times has told me, stop wasting your time. You've got a big job to do. They're just a distraction. Get back onto your road. And of course, like I'm naturally rebellious by heart. So I don't really like being told what to do at the best of times. So yeah, that we had some teething issues, Spirit and I. We definitely had some teething issues. To say the least. Yeah, like anybody else who's starting their journey, I'm sure, you can't help but rebel. Um, yeah, my rebel wasn't really, was I crazy in the end? My rebellion was more, don't tell me what to do. I'm gonna do what I want to do. Don't tell me what to do.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, really, really different upbringing.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, yeah, I guess to like tie a little ribbon on that, or again, taking myself back to that conversation on the couch, picking my jaw up off the floor, just thinking, wow, you have literally experienced from such a young age right up until today,
Yeah.
um, this whole other realm of existence that exists and is with you all the time. And things that are going to happen in your life, when they're happening. Oh, yes, that's part of my mission and what I'm here to do. And just how unique that is.
Thank
And
you.
so I guess I'm curious to ask you then, how did this experience lead you into working as a psychic medium and deciding, right, okay, I'm going to embrace spirit into what I do with the rest of my life and how I serve people?
You are literally going to laugh. There is quite a wild story how I even ended up as a psychic medium. And that one we're probably going to have to do for another episode. But yeah,
Okay.
I basically came into this realm professionally because of a cheating scandal. Yeah.
Woo, okay. It's
Yeah.
like it's giving me reality TV slash medium had a baby vibe. Like I can't, and I need to though. So I need to hear about this.
I love it. I love it.
You have
Well,
not told me this part. This part did not happen on the couch.
no, yeah, we were talking for quite some time, and I remember being on that couch thinking, this is quite the story. And I feel like it should be recorded because you're probably going to ask me questions that a lot of other people would want to know. And I want to preface this too. Like, I have never met another psychic medium that has had the same experience as I have. But I
Of course.
want you guys to share your ghost stories. I want you guys to share your experience. You don't have to be a psychic, you don't have to be a medium, but I'd love for you guys to join in on the chat. If you have experienced a ghostly encounter, please let us know. I actually love hearing people's stories, and I would love to do a season where we're sharing other people's ghost
Oh
stories,
my God.
not just about mine.
Stop. That would be a great season. Well, let's leave it just hanging there on the cliff with cheating scandal, shall we?
Yes.
I feel like we need to revisit this in another episode.
Done, done. I can't wait. Thanks so much for joining me in this first episode. And I hope that I haven't just let your jaw drop on the floor either. I hope you guys are okay. Anybody who's got the heebie jeebies, just call in your angels, ask your loved ones to do a blessing over you. You are safe. As I'm saying this, I'm doing blessing over you too. I hope you guys have a wonderful day wherever you are. Know that you are loved, watched over, and we'll see you in the next episode. Thanks, guys. Mwah. Bye.